Parsha Tavas Saharim is born of Lamer is Easter Soila. He Oila al Magdal Mizbach Kalalein. The Torah is talking about a carbon oila, sacrifice. The oila was unique in the way that it was delivered, because the oila was the only carbon that all of it, kolil taktar, everything went up in flames, none of it was eaten. And so we want to understand, what does that mean to us? And there's the famous Chazal, Zes Teres Oila, that today we don't have a Beis Hamikdash. The way to be Makriv Karbonos is through Torah. So Zes Teres Oila, if you learn Torah, then that's your Oila. And the same thing for a Chatos, and a Osham, and a Shlomim, and a Mincha. Everything today is through Torah, like it says the pasuk in Shalma Forum Sepaseinu. And this is so because we are not capable of doing, we're not capable of understanding the service that they did through the carbon. The Iker carbon, although the carbon went to many different angels, to many different forces, the most important part of the carbon, which went to HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself, was nothing else other than the desire of the heart of the person bringing the carbon and of the Kohen that's bringing that person closer to reality, closer back to the truth. What is the truth? The truth is that the Creator has no grudge against humanity. He's not angry at humanity. That's the truth. But we forget that truth. And when we forget that truth, then that truth doesn't apply to us. And when it doesn't apply to us, then all kinds of things happen. And so the desire of the heart of the individual bringing the carbon, and the desire of the heart of the Kohen that wants to attach that individual back to reality, those are the only portions of the entire carbon that went to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Everything else went to satisfy different malachim. And this is because the reason we had a Mishkan, the reason we needed sacrifices, is because of the Chet HaEgel, because the people didn't realize who they really are. They didn't reside in the truth. And once they didn't reside in the truth became very dangerous for them. Not because the truth is dangerous, but because not residing in the truth is very dangerous. And so once these people had difficulty remembering reality, remembering their relationship with reality, remembering what's really happening to them and how they're supposed to interact with what's happening to them, now we needed a way to return their hearts, return their truth, return their realization to the ultimate reality, which is that the Creator loves creation. It cannot be any other way. And so when a person brought a carbon, it meant that he realized within himself an area where he felt guilty, where he felt that something was not in accordance with how the Creator wanted creation to be, with how the Creator wanted life to be. And that created a conflict between him and the Creator. And that conflict is an extremely dangerous conflict, because the one who buys into that conflict is our imagination. And it's our imagination who runs our life, who runs what happens to us, who runs the type of thoughts that we're going to create. And so when our imagination thinks that there's a conflict between us and the Creator, it's going to anticipate that the Creator is going to react to that conflict, is going to interact with us in maybe a harmful way. And that anticipation becomes reality. Because it's our thoughts that create reality. And so when we think in those patterns, that's what we're going to see, that's what we're going to find. And because we have such an intimate relationship with our thoughts, where most of us believe our thoughts without any further investigation. So as soon as there is a perceived conflict, there will be actual punishment. And this is the cycle that was created already before the Mabul by a man named Chanoich. Chanoich was the one who wrote the first book of theology, I guess we could call it, where he describes the end of days, he describes what's going to take place on this planet. And he created the anticipation within people that do evil that they should recognize that nature keeps the score. There's a real reality that takes place when we interact with others, and there's something inside of us that understands those interactions much more deeply than we recognize, because everything that we think, everything that we feel, everything that we experience is written in a biological language. And the biology has already been designed to give everyone in accordance with what they deserve. Because as we resist reality, for whatever reason, as we become distant from what's taking place, our interactions are not going to be balanced. And then we're going to lose access to reality the way that it's supposed to be. Then we're going to lose our ability to enjoy it. And so our biology has already been designed that we can't find purpose, we can't find a deeper spiritual pleasure unless we're at peace, unless we come to a place where we are aligned with our nature, with our biological nature, with the way that whoever created us had in mind for us to behave. And when we misbehave, when we go against that, there are consequences that happen in so many different formats that we can't even keep track, because we are tied into and entangled with all the forces of nature. This is how man becomes man. So all our organs, all our body parts are developed by different clusters of stars in outer space. And so there's an interaction between who we are here on Earth, and we're like this little puppet that's pulling strings to worlds upon worlds that are much bigger than us and much more complex than we can possibly understand. And so all of us have access to all these different worlds, and all of us are impacting all these different worlds, the worlds of the emotions, the worlds of the beliefs, the worlds of concept. And these are the things that drive humanity. These are the things that cause everything that happens on this planet. And so when we interact clumsily with these divine energies, then we cause ourselves and humanity trouble. We cause ourselves harm. And so this knowledge, which was spread by Chanoich, who later went up and became an angel, meaning that he became part of the psyche of every human being on this planet. And so he's called the angel that runs this planet, the Malach Metatron. And his name is Chanoich because his duty is to train humanity. He's here to train. And he doesn't forgive sin because he's an angel. An angel can't forgive sin. An angel is a program. It runs and it interacts without any feelings, without any emotions. It just does what it's tasked to do. And so this angel called Chanoich, which means training, is within each one of us. And it interacts with our thoughts. And sometimes we come out guilty. And when we do, it causes our imagination to interact with us in a different way. And so this goes back to what we call the Kav Schus and the Kav Choiv. This is why Chazal teach us, Havedon is kol adam lekav schus. You should treat every person to the side of schus. And if we're medayik in the words, it says, Eskol ha'adam. And if we were to say all people, it would mean Eskol adam, all people. But it says Eskol ha'adam. Ha'adam means the people. And when we speak about, and when we medayik in Lashon HaKodesh, when it says ha'adam, it means the man, meaning the nature of man, the fact that there is a man, mankind. And so you should judge mankind, you should judge the nature of man favorably. It's called ha'adam. Everything that's within man, you need to judge favorably. Because if it's within man, it was created for a purpose, it needs to be there. If it doesn't seem to you that way, it's because you're misunderstanding, because you're judging lekav choiva, because you haven't recognized the true meaning, the true nature of what was created. And so this knowledge of being dan lekav schus, of being mate klape chesed, this knowledge makes a human being human. This gives him power over that angel that wants to put him on the guilty side. And so when we see in other people guilt, then we automatically fall under the influence of that angel called Chanoich. We automatically fall under that type of belief, that type of thinking that says that it has to be tit for tit. It wasn't created in order to do good and we're going to try to train them the best we can. No, it has to be exactly by the letter of the law, midas adin. And so we go into that world. That world is not a pleasant world. That world is a world for training. That world is a world that has no forgiveness. And then we can look deeper, search deeper, and find the Midas HaRachamim. The Midas HaRachamim says that everything was created in order to create the perfect man. It's not about the rules, it's about the perfect man. It's about the goal of what we're trying to get to. And so if forgiveness is going to get us there faster, then let's do forgiveness. And that's the koach of the Boire, that's the koach of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that he is all about the goal. For him, it's not about the rules. For the Malachim, for the angels, it's about the rules. They have their task, they have their job, and they're trying to fulfill it. But to the Creator, it's not about the rules, it's about the goal. What are we trying to accomplish? What are we trying to create? And so when we find HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it means we find Midas HaRachamim. We find within our hearts that humanity doesn't deserve to get punished. Humanity doesn't deserve to get hurt. Humanity deserves to be enlightened. Humanity deserves to find their way. They deserve to know the truth. And that means that we are interacting with the world in the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu designed it to work. B'midas harachamim. But when our hearts become stiff, when we forget ourselves, we forget who we are, and we judge, then we go into a world where things can get very sticky. Then very easily can we fall in to the kaf choiv, to find guilt within ourselves. If we find guilt within ourselves, we will certainly find guilt within people around us. And so this is our work. This is our avodah. If we ever want to come out of Galus, if we ever want to be able to interact with life on a higher level, we have to live in a world of forgiveness. We have to live in a world of midas harachamim. We have to live in a world where the rules are not about the rules. They're about the people. And yes, there are rules, because this is life. Life has its rules. But it's not about who can stand and continue with more and more stringent rules. That's not what the HaKadosh Baruch Hu is looking for. What the HaKadosh Baruch Hu is looking for is the right heart that can know when to apply the rules and can know when to bend the rules. That's the nature of a heart. That's the nature of the Midas HaRachamim. That it bends the rules when necessary. That it takes man and it puts him above all the stars. It puts him above all the mazoles. It puts him above all the angels. It puts him in a place where he has access to the very source. What is the source? The desire to give, the desire to share, the desire to create, the desire to manifest. And so that source has rachamim. That source can create, can rewrite the rules, can change the meaning of the rules. It can keep the rules and change the rules at the same time, and nobody would even notice. And so it's a force that is beyond the physical. It's even beyond the spiritual. It's the source of everything. It's the source that decided what's going to be and how it's going to be. And that's the only way it's ever going to be. And so when we connect to that source, we can go beyond Chanoich. We can go beyond the Malach Metatrin. And we can find Shalom. Shalom is the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's where you can find HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If you want to find him, you look for Shalom. Shalom is his name. This is how you call him. And when you call HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name, Korev Hashem L'chol Koirov, L'chol Hashikru Be'emes. He's close to everybody, as long as you call him in truth, Be'emes, which means that you have realized that all your idols, all the things you worship, all the things you think that are so important, you just made that up because of your experience. Other people made up other stuff. But now you want to go back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you want to go back to reality. And so if we call him Be'emes, if our heart is pure, if we're really willing to give up everything that we imagine, and we just want to have peace in what is, we have realized that there's something much bigger than what we thought it was that is available, and we want access to that. We don't care anymore about our little petty cheshbonis. Then, Korev Hashem L'chol Korev, he's very close. He's very easy to find. Because if you don't disturb yourself, then you won't be disturbed. And when we're not disturbed, then we're a channel for pure energy. Then we're a channel for truth. Then we're attached to our source. But if we start to make all kinds of cheshbonis, expectations, this has to be like this and that has to be like that, and then we worship an image and we don't worship the source. And that's a recipe for disaster. That's the beginning of everything going wrong. So when we bring a korban to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's to reunite the lovers that got disconnected by circumstances. And this is the name korban. Korban means bringing close, coming together. And this is why it says that when somebody feeds a Talmud Chacham, it's like he's makir v'korban. Because ultimately, it's about the desire of the heart. And when we feed ourselves, if we have the right kavanah, then we are creating a vessel for the divine within us. And so that's like bringing a korban. That's like bringing a sacrifice, bringing something external that was created by the Shekhinah, and bringing it close, bringing it in, uniting with it until we become one. And then the energy within us that thinks is actually from the food that we ate. That's the type of elevation that that food receives. It goes from being a doimem, being something that cannot think or feel, and it goes through tzameach, it goes through chai, and it comes to become a medaber, but not just any medaber. It comes to become a part of the divine light that's trying to light up the world when it gets eaten by a Talmud Chacham. And therefore, It's considered like bringing a carbon. It elevates the world. It changes the meaning of life. And this is the ultimate purpose, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu created life in order to share kindness, in order to share pleasure, in order to share realization, in order to share wisdom. And by us not being mature enough and having way more power than we know how to wield in a responsible way, we turned our vessels into vessels that are ready to receive pain and suffering, are ready to be in sadness and in fear, but are not that used to gratefulness, happiness, joy, security, safety. And these are environments that get created by human beings. These are environments that we have to create for each other. And so, as life changes, as we go through different events, we are expected to realize that there's a bigger truth, that there's something else, that there's much more. It cannot be that such a sophisticated reality was created simply to allow people to suffer. It cannot be. One who has the power to create what we saw and what we see was created, he must have a vision for this creation that goes way beyond anything that we've experienced, anything that we have been exposed to. And we have to realize that deeply so that we don't tarnish his name, so that we don't assume that the way that life feels to us right now represents anything about the real nature of the Creator. Because now is just a speck of time. HaKadosh Baruch Hu calls it Kirega ketoin azavtech, I left you for a little moment. And if we look at the vastness of the universe, we can realize why even 1,000 years and even 10,000 years to him is a little moment. But there's a purpose. Chanoch did what he did for a purpose. His purpose was so pure, his purpose was so clean, that he became an angel. He became a fixed feature within the human psyche. He became the underlying element of human psychology for thousands of years. That was his reward. His interpretation of life resides above the angels that run the planets, the angels that run the signs, the astrological signs, the angels that run the zodiac. His interpretation of the forces of the zodiac, his interpretations of the forces within man, has changed the nature of those forces themselves, the experience that we're having. And so the only way we can leave Mitzrayim, the only way we can leave our suffering, is to overcome that level, is to be a society that is intelligent enough to exist without any thought of punishment, where not a child or an adult ever has to imagine punishment in order to do the right thing. And that eliminates that angel, that eliminates the necessity for us to continue being in training, for us to continue to think in the pathways, in the neurology, in the psychology that has been designed for us by Chanoch, by a person who sincerely wanted to help the world become better. And so we can only be able to transcend that level when we're intelligent enough to not need that type of assistance any longer. And Klal Yisrael has been chosen. We're the Am HaNivchor. What are we Am HaNivchor for? We are the Am HaNivchor to transcend that angel. We're the Am HaNivchor to be the first nation that will not need punishment in order to know how to behave, where proper behavior will be motivated by love, by pure love, by rachamim, by the fact that we love life, we love humanity, we love other human beings, and we want to do the right thing for them, regardless of the consequences. And when we get to such a place, the reaction of the Creator is going to be such that the happiness and the joy that we're going to feel is not describable. Nothing has ever prepared us for the type of joy that we're going to experience as we shift into a collective awareness, a collective experience. And so this is all, this is the purpose, this is the reason, this is the promise. And maybe all be zoche to arrive with Mashiach Tzidkenu to the third Beis HaMikdash, which should be built as soon as possible.